Nan, where were you born?
I was born in New York City.
When?
You want my date? Wow, how appropriate, huh? March 20th, 1918.
Okay.
18. Did you say 18 already?
Shut him up.
Where was the regular place where babies were born?
Hospital.
Hospitals. Do you remember anything about your mom or dad telling you anything about when you were born? Stories or anything?
No, I don't think so. I know where I was born. It's still there.
Did you have like maybe a baby book or something?
No, they weren't invented then.
Did you go to nursery school or kindergarten?
Kindergarten. Mrs. Moon.
Do you remember your first day?
No, that was too long ago. Oh, damn.
Did you learn, what kind of things did you learn?
In kindergarten? We get to, I guess, colors and numbers and games. Same as you would have learned.
Did you like going to your school?
I love school.
Did you like your homework?
Yep. I always do my homework.
Did you have a lot of it as you got
Sometimes.
older?
Sometimes.
Did your school require a uniform?
No.
Okay. What kind of clothing fads? Were there any clothing things that you remember?
No
Elementary school?
slacks or anything like that, but just skirts and blouses, I imagine, but no pants like we wear nowadays.
Was there something that everyone really wanted to buy so they could have?
Hope.
Kind of like everyone who had already,
I don't
a
remember.
popular thing.
I don't remember anything at the moment.
Speak up louder, please. So I can hear you.
We're not talking to you.
Yeah, but it has to record.
Do you remember the popular sports or games that you play?
Tennis, roller skating, ice skating. Oh, ice skating. Sleigh riding. Weather was. And I used to love the water.
Did you have teams? Were you allowed on a team?
No, these were just groups of children get together, I guess.
Were girls allowed on a team?
I guess there were some girl sports then. I was never on an actual team, no.
What kind of sports were there girl sports that were on a team?
I guess tennis and baseball, the same as now.
Did you have a favorite sport or game?
I was supposed to swim.
Swimming? Were you good at it?
In those days, really good. Not anymore. Oh, I have a medal. What am I talking about? I got a medal once in a race.
Oh.
Yeah. See?
What kind of race?
Swimming. Will you talk about swimming?
What kind of a stroke were you good at?
Overhand.
Overhead?
Mm-hmm.
What would that be?
Just over, just plain.
Like the freestyle?
Freestyle. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That was always my favorite.
Did you like to see the movies?
I didn't get to too many.
Were going to movies popular?
Yes, because it was very, very inexpensive, like 10 cents or something. Very good.
Did you have a favorite pastime?
Reading.
Did you do that in your spare time?
Mm-hmm. Whenever I could, I could read.
What kind of books did you like?
Oh, I used to like all the Bobbsey Twins, Six Little Bunkers, and
Mysteries?
mysteries and history.
Did you have special chores that you had to do around the house?
Not too many, no. I had to mind my two kid sisters on occasion. Other than that, no.
Did you get an allowance?
No. No.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A nurse.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know, but I always wanted to be a nurse.
Do you ever think of being a doctor?
No. No, just a nurse.
Did you have an idol?
Beg your pardon?
An idol?
No.
You liked a lot?
Florence Nightingale, sure. That was my idol. How about that?
What was something that would be expensive now, like a house or something? How much do you think would it cost?
A house? Now?
Well, if
Or then?
If you got this house,
No.
then
Oh.
how much do you think it would cost?
Oh, I guess it would not cost terribly much like it does now. Maybe about 1/3.
Which would be
That would be hard to project.
like about how much?
Oh, maybe 60,000. That's just a guess.
Do you have a nice house?
I thought so.
Did
Other
it cost
people-
a lot?
No, I guess it didn't, but we liked it. We were happy there.
Did you like being with your two sisters?
Mm-hmm. We always got along very well.
You never had any big fights?
Not too many.
When you did, what?
I used to fight with my brother more than my sisters. And we used to get into fights
Did you like your brother enough?
very much.
Were your parents, did they help you? Did you get along with them?
Oh, yes. Except when my daddy used to try to teach me arithmetic the old-fashioned way, then we would always end up in trouble. He thought he knew my way, and I thought he didn't. We used to fight. Whoa. That's his bad things.
Did you like math?
I never liked math after he got finished teaching me, no. Until I grew up and went to work, then I worked with numbers and I liked them.
What was your first job?
In the telephone company, I just worked with numbers and things like that.
Was that a nice place to work?
Very nice, yes.
Was it what company?
AT&T.
Oh, New York Telephone, was it?
No, never,
Oh, no?
never. I don't know where you get that idea from.
Did you live in New York your whole
No, we lived outside New York, about an hour away, closer to the ocean, which is on the other side.
So what part of where did you live?
Long out in the, not terribly far from the ocean. About a half
Did you
hour
get to go to
drive.
the
Oh,
ocean?
they all think?
Fairly often, yes. My daddy used to take us.
Was he a good swimmer?
Yes, he liked the water very much.
Did you like to go, was your mom scared of the water?
No, she always liked the water too, but she would stay home more often and get
When she
do
did
things.
go, would she go in the
Yes,
water?
she liked the water.
Were your sisters good swimmers?
We all like to swim, like to go in the water. All four of us.
What kind of toys and stuff would you use when you were in the ocean? Did you have any?
Well, we didn't have toys like that. We had inner tubes, perhaps,
Yeah.
but that's
No
about all.
rafts or-
Tires. No, I never had anything like that.
So, well, I think that's it.
Oh, good. Now I can go. Thank you, ma'am. That wasn't too painful.
You have to fade out.
You haven't been taking pictures that I trust. Hmm? Have you been taking a picture?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Where were you born?
I was born in New York City, in Manhattan, on the Lower East Side, in 1917.
Okay. Do you remember, did your mom or dad ever tell you anything about your birth stories and stuff?
I don't remember anything in particular, except one thing. Before starting kindergarten, which I didn't attend very long, I went underneath the bed in our apartment in Manhattan, and I set fire to the mattress. With a match.
Oh,
But
okay.
I did not burn down the building. The fire was put out very quickly. But that's one of my first recollections of my very young years.
Did you go to nursery school?
No, they didn't have nursery schools in that area of New York City at that time, as far as I know.
Well, did you go to kindergarten?
Very briefly, I went to kindergarten. No, yeah, and decided to quit school.
In kindergarten?
In kindergarten, I decided not to go.
So how long were you there?
Well, shortly after that, we moved to Queens, New York, which at that time was out in the country, and yet it was only 13 miles from the city of New York, the developed city of New York, Manhattan. And that's where I then grew up.
Do you remember anything about kindergarten? Things you learned?
No, I don't think I ever attended kindergarten. I started in the first grade, and I recall no kindergarten. I don't think I ever attended kindergarten.
Do you remember first grade?
Yes. Well, I remember attending, but I don't remember anything specific about the first grade.
Do you remember math? Did you?
Yes, but math was not introduced. Addition and subtraction, division until later on. Maybe the third or fourth grade.
Did you like going to school?
Not particularly, but I went.
Did you like doing your homework?
No, never did it.
Did you have a lot of it?
Not very much, but there was too much. And whatever it was too much.
This is my homework.
I would have preferred to be out there outside playing.
Okay. Did your elementary school require uniforms?
Oh no, not at all. Not in grade school, not in public school at all.
Do you remember anything about the clothing people wore?
Oh yeah, as a boy, and most of my friends or classmates wore knickers and long stockings and shoes that were laced up to the ankles, or they didn't have loafers then.
What are knickers?
They're short pants that tighten up at the knee, and they cover the knee and on up, and then from the feet on up to the knee, you wore long stockings.
Like tights?
No, just long stockings.
Like just
They
long
cover your leg.
knee socks?
Well, higher than knee socks. They came up above the knee,
Okay.
and then the knickers covered below the knee.
You wore knickers?
Oh yes. Well, that's all, that was the
That's right, you're
that was
older
the
than I am.
style of clothing in those days, yeah.
Were there any popular things that you wanted to buy that was like popular that everyone wore?
Simply shoes without holes in them. No, we bought the shoes, but only after the old ones were very well worn. And after the cardboard inside the shoe, when those wore out, then bought a pair of shoes. Finally,
Did you play any sports?
baseball. I love baseball.
Were you on a team?
Well, the neighborhood team, yes.
Did you play games against other neighborhoods?
Yes, we did. Every game I could attend, I would play, to the exclusion of ignoring my household chores, which was a dangerous thing to do, because there was punishment if you didn't do your chores.
Did in baseball, was there specific of what you played?
Well, I used to like to bat. Get up at the base and hit the ball. But I liked every part of the game. First base, second, third, outfield. I love the game. I love the game of baseball. And one of my biggest thrills as a young boy was to have a baseball suit that looked like the New York Yankees.
Were they your favorite team?
Yes, New York Yankees was my favorite team.
Well,
And they still are.
do they still play?
Oh, sure.
Do you watch them on TV? If they're ever on?
I sometimes watch. Not as often as I used to, but I sometimes watch.
They were in the World Series, would you
Oh,
watch them?
if they were in the World Series, of course.
Did you like to go see movies?
As often as I could. If I had the money, I would go.
How much was it?
10 cents.
Did you have a favorite pastime?
Baseball. And reading. I love to read.
Do you do that in your spare time?
Well, I had a lot of spare time. Since I didn't do any homework. But I did a lot of reading, played outdoors whenever I could. And then I had a lot of household chores, because I was the older son in the family. Uncle Frank was very young. And my father was a disciplinarian. He was very strict. But you had to do these chores. And if you failed to do them, there was punishment.
What kind of chores did you have to do?
Oh, clean the basement, sieve the ashes. We used to have a coal-burning furnace, and many coals did not burn completely. So you had to retrieve the coals that had not burned to use them the next day. Yes, a lot of dust, because you screen using like a window screen, and you put the ashes in there, and you would pick out the coals that did not burn for use in the fire the next day. And after they burned, and they would burn very quickly, you'd put in fresh coal in the fire to keep it burning, if you had coal to burn. There were times we had no coal to burn,
She can be disturbed.
and things got very cold.
Taking pictures, Dick, can you talk to him? Call back.
I,
Can she call you back? She's assisting.
she's interviewing.
Okay.
Did you have vacuum cleaners?
No. Not as a child. When I was your age, I don't believe there were vacuum cleaners. There may have been, but we had none.
Did
In
you
our
have a
home.
TV?
Oh, no, no. TV, we first had TV in 1948, and I'm talking to you about a period in 1920, 20 years before that. Long time before TV. What we had when I was a boy was radio, not TV.
Did you like to listen to the radio?
Yes, we used to like to listen to Jack Benny, Fred Allen, who's another comedian who was very good, and Frank Sinatra, Russ Colombo, and many singers. Even some of these singers are still active today.
Did you have a favorite show on the radio?
The Shadow, mystery stories on the radio. And one of the most popular in those days, which I liked, was called The Shadow. And we used to start out the program with saying, "The Shadow knows."
Well, did you get an allowance for doing your chores?
Oh, no. Money was very scarce because I grew up during the Depression years. The Depression came, the country's economic system collapsed along with the rest of the world in 1929. And while things were nice before that, after that, everybody lost their jobs. My father lost his. People were out of work. Things were very, very difficult.
Who was the president?
The president was Hoover at the time, President Herbert Hoover. And then
Did he get you out of the Great
he
Depression?
did not, but President Roosevelt did.
Did he come after?
He came after Herbert Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt.
Our future tells him FDR.
And that's right. He got us out of it. But of course, World War II helped. And yet, World War II started in 1939 in Europe. But for 10 years, from 1929 to 1939, the whole country was in a depression. People were out of work. And many people went hungry, without clothing, without heat. It was very difficult growing up in those years because everybody was very poor.
Did you have to pay for things like coal?
Oh, yes.
Where would you buy it?
We used to buy it at places that would sell it some distance away. And before the Depression, we used to have coal delivered by truck in a chute that they'd deliver through a window in the basement into a coal bin, which was constructed next to the furnace, a coal-burning furnace. But during the Depression, often we could not buy coal in bulk. And we often bought coal by the bag, a 100-pound bag, and carted in a wagon. So at about your age, I would go with a wagon 5, 6, 7 blocks away and buy a bag of coal for $1. Then come back another 5, 6, 7 blocks, start a fire in the furnace, and by the morning that coal would all be gone and have to go back the next day with a wagon, fill up a bag of coal for 100 pounds, pay for that, and then bring it back so we'd have heat the next day. This is only, of course, during the winter time.
Was $1 a lot?
$1 was quite a bit in those days, yes.
How much do you think it would cost if we had to go by?
Well, of course, today everybody has gas-burning furnaces or they have electricity, and all you do is raise the thermostat. In those days, you had to buy coal to be delivered into the basement or by wagon. But, so people don't do that today. Industrial companies, some electrical companies may use coal-burning furnaces, but most homes do not. They use gas that's piped in, and they control the heat in the home, as you do, by raising the thermostat.
But if we
Of course, poor people, even today, they may not be able to pay for gas, so they have no heat. The gas supply may be turned off, and they go without heat.
Well, if we had to buy clothes now, how much do you think it would cost?
Today, that same bag could cost $10 or $15, but of course, that's not done today because we don't have in homes any longer today coal burning fireplaces. As I said, we had gas furnaces or electrical heating systems, but not coal. But in those days, that's all that was available. Then oil came along later. Of course, there's a lot of oil burning furnaces today. But after coal, in those days, came oil and then electricity and gas.
Well, if $1 was a lot, then, how much was something that...
Well, food was a lot cheaper. For example, you could buy a loaf of bread for 5 cents.
Which would be
And
about...
today it's over $1, or maybe a little less, but around $1. So things are far more expensive today, but people earn far more money in wages. So therefore they can afford the higher cost of food and clothing and shelter because people today earn much higher wages.
Like, going back to the school part,
Yes.
see, at our school, next Wednesday, we're going to go on a field trip to Williamsburg, an overnight field trip.
Uh-huh.
Did you ever have any field trips?
Never.
Did you
Never.
ever go
When
on
I
a
went to
field
school.
trip?
When I was a Boy Scout, we went on trips, but no trips sponsored by the school. Never.
So you have to pay for them yourself?
Have to pay for what?
Well, if you had to, like, get in somewhere.
You'd have to join the Boy Scouts as I did, and I went on a few trips, camping trips with Boy Scouts. But the schools in those days, they never sponsored a trip, overnight trip, or any other activity, except during school hours where they had recess and they had games outside between classes. But I recall at no time did my grade school sponsor a trip outside of the school in a group. They just didn't do it in those days.
So,
Do a commercial. We have to break for a station break. We'll be right back.
oh yeah.
Okay. Part 2.
Ask about growing up.
Well, you said before that you like to read.
Yes.
Is there a reason that you like to read? Did your parents read to you?
Well, my parents spoke very little English.
What did they speak?
My father spoke Italian. My mother spoke German.
Did they understand each other?
Yes, they spoke each other's language. And we kids growing up spoke Italian, understood Italian, understood German as my mother spoke it, and over the years, much English they would adopt many English words with their Italian and German. But they spoke each other's language. We were exposed to the two languages, and they did not do much reading in English.
Did you like to read? Did you read to yourself?
We learned to read, I suppose, primarily in school, as a result of school. And maybe the comic strips growing up, learning how to read at age 5 and 6 and 7. And I suppose I began reading with great interest. At about the time I was in the, fifth or sixth grade, and it stayed with me all of my life since.
And did you read to your brothers or sisters?
No, we each handled our reading interests individually.
How many brothers and sisters did you?
I had and have one brother and two sisters. Two other sisters died before I was born. So today we have Aunt Vera, who's still living, and Minnie died about 5, 6 years ago.
Do I
But-
remember
You don't, but your mother does. You probably don't remember Aunt Minnie, but you may have seen her and talked with her, but you were perhaps quite young because she spent the last years of her life in California, well removed from the east coast of Maryland where we live now.
Well, when you were little, did you play an instrument?
I tried. I love music.
God, are you still on there?
I tried
Writing a biography.
the violin and gave that up.
I did too.
And then I tried the trombone, and I worked hard at that. And my lips swelled out like a Ubangi warrior. And I took a few lessons and gave that up. And with the trombone, you have to have a fairly good ear for music because you have to blow out the note. Piano, you strike a key and out comes A, B, C, or Do, Re, Mi. But in the trombone or a kind of a wind instrument, you must blow the note. And I didn't have that ear. And then I studied the saxophone. And the saxophone, of course, used the keys that come out with A, B, C, D, and so on. And I tried that for some time. I did better with the saxophone than with the other instruments. But I had to give that up too. I've forgotten what the reason might have been, but that didn't last too long either. And I would say that covered the period from age 10 to age 12, 13, when I finally gave up all musical ambitions.
Did you have any friends that kept on playing?
Oh yes, that's why I tried to study, because my friends were all as young as they were. In my age group, they were accomplished musicians. Many, without taking any lessons, played beautifully and went on to become professional musicians for the rest of their lives. And the last friend who was a musician died during the trip we made to Germany in 1983. There was a young lady there born at that time. And when I got back from Germany, I learned that this last friend was a musician. He played the accordion, saxophone, trumpet, piano, beautifully. He had his own orchestra, and he died of a heart attack. We grew up together, very young, 5 and 6 years old, right on through our lives.
When you were little, did you want to be anything when you grew up? Really young?
I wanted to show you now.
Primarily, first I wanted to be a baseball player. And of course, that passed. And then I wanted to be a musician. And you must remember that this was during the very bad depression that you heard about, but you can not imagine how bad it was. And the idea was to be able to develop a skill so that you could produce income. That was the guiding, driving force, was to do something that you could use or sell your services to make money, to bring home, to help the family live better, to support them, to provide food, clothing, and shelter, the necessaries of life.
Well, if you were a baseball player, did they make a lot of money?
More than most. Baseball players, that is the big leagues, made a lot of money. In those days, for example, I remember when Babe Ruth, who was a very famous baseball player, you know the name, was given a contract for $80,000 a year. It made the headlines on the local New York papers. Babe Ruth signs contract for $80,000 a year. Now ball players make $5-6 million a year.
$2.8 million.
Yes, you know. And therefore, and most people, skilled laborers, would make $2 an hour, $1 an hour in those days. Very little for their work, for their labor.
Was there a limit that you can't go under to get an hour? Like now that you can't
No.
go under $4?
Because I worked for a time for 5 cents an hour, and I worked 60 hours a week, so I made $3 from Monday through Saturday, and I was paid $3 a week.
Were you sad about that? Did you think that was pretty good?
Well, I was glad to have the $3 at the end of the week, which I brought home, and we would buy food with it.
Did you have an idol that you wanted to be like a baseball player?
Not a specific person, but maybe a baseball player. No hero as such. You've run other questions. Well, let's take an intermission, and we'll turn off the camera, and we'll take a recess and discuss the next topic.
Or
Can you turn off the camera?
yes. Hello. I didn't do that. Let's do the mom thing. I just fainted.